Roller Coaster Tycoon World is here, and I am sad. It's been 12 years since the last full Roller Coaster Tycoon game on PC, so my hopes were quite high. I even got to play an early version with the developers in Vizio Creations at PAX Prime in 2015, and thought that it looked promising there. But alas, such sadness. Let me tell you the tale. It starts off with a main menu, with the largest portion seemingly advertising its own lack of content, and when you try to click the arrows left and right on this, nothing happens at all. A bit odd, but okay. Next, I got the option to start a sandbox game or play through the story mode, the former of which is self-explanatory and the latter is just the tutorial plus a collection of challenge maps. It's also where you unlock the rest of the game's content because there's a slew of park items that can't be used until you buy them here using in-game currency. More on that later. Anyway, I figured whatever, I'll play through this, if only to familiarize myself with the controls and unlock everything, but I was only able to get a few maps in before it bugged out and refused to let me continue. I tried to play through this map 3 times, and each time it screwed up and refused to let me end the scenario, meaning that I could not move on. I chalked it up to bad luck and pushed forward onto the sandbox mode, which loaded to 0% almost immediately and then crashed to the desktop. Alright, maybe it's just shy, so I gave it another shot, and finally I was on my way to building my very own theme park. At least I would have been, had I been able to place just a single building across from another one, which for whatever reason it didn't want to allow me to do whatsoever, confounding me to such a degree that I had to go outside and take a walk. When I came back, I decided to ignore the weird feeling in the pit of my stomach and just start building, and it was here that I discovered that it's still the same basic Roller Coaster Tycoon idea underneath that buggy facade. That means you've got a plot of land to develop, which is small at first but can be expanded by purchasing more later, and it's up to you to build an amusement park and make some cold hard cash doing so. You build rides, construct coasters, supply food and drinks, plop down some restrooms and souvenir shops, and hire enough staff to make sure it all runs smoothly. But while it ticks off a small list of the most basic things a park sim should provide, there's a severe lack of any real adversity or challenge. And I've complained about a lack of depth in similar games before, yes, but here it really is just non-existent. I never once went bankrupt or had to take out a loan or even felt the need to tweak ride wait times or line queues. People just kept piling in and buying up everything in sight regardless of what I did. Now, I'm not saying every simulation needs to be super tough or challenging, but I at least expect it to keep me mentally engaged on some level, instead of like here, where I never got past the point of being technically not bored. One thing you do at least get is VIPs visiting in the form of social media influencers, but appeasing them is often as simple as dropping them onto the kind of building they want to visit, and that's it. There are also some key and sometimes disappointing differences in Roller Coaster Tycoon World's progression compared to earlier games in the series, and indeed competitors that are out there on the market right now. Remember how earlier I mentioned that you'd have to unlock more items through the story mode? Yeah, that also means they've gotten rid of the research and development aspect that's a longtime staple of the series, so you've either got stuff to build or you don't. Thankfully, it comes with quite a lot in terms of blueprints for coasters and buildings, and you can make your own decorative items piece by piece, which is sweet. But the fact that you can't unlock the rest without playing the glitched out story mode just sucks. It does at least have built-in Steam Workshop support, and it even lets you import your own 3D models and custom textures, so that's a small ray of sunshine, which doesn't last long. The clouds return when you realize there's very little control over the finer details of your park, with the exception of roller coasters, which I'll get to soon. About the only thing you can do is rename each building and ride, but forget about things like adjusting the condiments and portions of food and beverages, looking at individual employee information and evaluating their performance, or even recoloring flat rides like tilt-a-whirls and merry-go-rounds. There's also a shocking lack of music options, with no custom music files from these menus and only 5 basic ditties being available, one of which is tragically titled General. How exciting. Heck, not even this ride sign can be customized as I'd hoped. It just says, "Under construction, forever," as if to signify the state of the game itself. And yes, I know that if you move it on top of a queue for a ride, it takes the name of the ride, but why is this restriction there at all? Another change is the point-to-point pathway system, which lets you more easily construct paths and line queues than earlier games, and I really like this when it works as it should. But as mentioned before with the buildings not placing, it has some issues where things just refuse to plop down or connect how you'd like. This also gets in the way of rotating objects for some reason, like this light pole that I just wanted to spin around using the rotate function, but was locked in place for unknown reasons. The other big change is the roller coaster creation itself, which is what got my attention the most back when I played an early build at PAX. It's a spline-based system now, and similar to Pathways, you just click a couple spots and it fills in the stuff between those points. After this, you can click and drag to move the track around, use the mouse wheel to apply banking and height adjustments, and add nodes to split up the track for sections with boosters, stops, and chains. It's a supremely simple to use system, although it lacks some precision, and if you don't like it, you can use the traditional piece-by-piece system from games past, letting you more precisely construct to your heart's content. It's not without its issues, and sometimes it can be hard to decipher what it wants you to do in order to make a coaster that doesn't suck, but it's good for quickly tossing coaster designs at the wall and seeing what sticks. You can also customize the colors of the entire coaster, including control over the look and design of each individual car, which is awesome. However, it's not long before you start crashing coasters and are quickly reminded of the severe lack of polish going on here. Just, how did this get through? How did any of this get through? Why is it so easy to get pathways to clip through the terrain that looks like it would be flat? Why don't VIP visits work, and instead just go into negative numbers for eternity? Who looked at this art direction and said, "Yep, that looks good"? How is it that no one in the park cares if the whole place is completely flooded? Why does basic terrain editing slow the frame rate down into single digits? Why is the dirt so hungry for cacti and rocks? What's with the stop-motion peeps in the background? Could they not afford a few more frames of animation? Questions and annoyances like these just go on the longer I play, and it only makes me ask, sincerely, what the hell happened here? This is a mainline Roller Coaster Tycoon game, right? Not some half-hearted ripoff found in a bargain bin at Walmart in 2005, right? Because, dude, the entirety of Roller Coaster Tycoon World has that air of cheapness about it. Or perhaps more accurately, a feeling of being incomplete, which makes a bit of sense knowing it went through development trouble for years. Whenever a title blows through at least 3 different development studios over a 2-year lifespan and gets rushed out of early access just 24 hours before its biggest competitor hits the market, a sense of things feeling off is not unexpected. It's just really sad. I gotta feel some sympathy for the people involved here because there's no way they set out trying to make a Roller Coaster Tycoon game be this subpar. I don't know if it's the publisher Atari to blame here or what, but this game has the unmistakable stench of quality control gone awry. Or maybe it was just the lack of time and resources to control any quality in the first place. I don't know, but this is the result, and ugh. They're asking $35 for this, $40 for the deluxe edition with barely anything added. Yeah, how about no? I am totally bummed to say that Roller Coaster Tycoon World is the single most disappointing game of 2016 for me. And if you liked this take on this game from me, then perhaps you'd like to see some of my others here, including the excellent Planet Coaster, which released just a day after this game did, so that's a thing. Click on these if you'd like, and as always, thank you very much for watching LGR.